my view is that the people that you're backing should be experts in their field. What they're not normally experts in is actually how to build and scale a company. So where I bring the value, because I've always been very selective in my investments. So as an angel, I would only do about 2 deals a year. As a VC, we only do like 5 deals a year. And our focus is more on supporting the founders post-investment, actually helping to like scale, build, support them in all the areas that most founders, because if you're especially doing deep tech or even enterprise tech, which is more of my focus, they normally are much more on the product and the tech side. So they're experts in that field. But when you talk to them about branding, about building culture, to build teams, to get product market fit, all of these things, that's where they really struggle. And I find it doesn't matter what sector you're in, the same basic kind of theory to how you can support them and how they do it actually works. And the process, I think, as an angel, one of the mistakes I made very early on in my life is I try to do it all for them. So I'm like, okay, you want to build a brand from scratch, let me do this for them. And to be quite honest, it was a bit of a clusterfuck because they knew their business much better than anybody else, what they needed. And as soon as I stepped away, they were like, well, Michael did it, so we have absolutely no clue how to do it. For me, what it's all about is actually saying, this is the framework, this is how you think about it, this is what you need to actually do. They have to do the work themselves, because if they don't buy into it. But it's that level of knowledge that they're missing. So I feel that I can invest across the sector. It's like any sector. When it comes to like deep tech, I don't have to be a specialist in that area. I'm much more about the people I can bring in. I've got a very big network. I can bring in people that can actually look into that and say, yes, this is what they're saying is true or not. And then I come in and say, do I actually believe this is the right team to actually build and scale? Are these the people that I can back, and they've got the gumption, the vision, the hunger to actually really build something, which is not just going to be a lifestyle business, but be kind of a rock star.
So, it's interesting because what you're talking about in plain speak is due diligence in a way. Sounds boring, but is vital. So I'm curious because, all successful and unsuccessful angel investors have made mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And, did you? Yeah, we're
Apart
all
from
chuckling
Michael,
and
of course.
nodding.
Apart from Michael,
Trust me. I've got some doozies. I've got absolute doozies.
Well, I was going to ask you 2 things. One, to share some of those doozy stories and what you think when you go back and analyze what you might have done differently, what that was. Yeah. And secondly, how much do you rely on networks or other people or versus your own gut? So those are kind of 2 different parts of the question.
I'll answer the second one first, because that's really easy. Okay. When it comes to, it's very much on my gut. So my initial reaction is always really important because it's about the people. Like, do I believe? And, I've invested in 18-year-olds as well. It's like 50-year-olds kind of across the board. And a lot of the times they're like first-time founders. They haven't done it. So a lot of their prior so one of my top performing companies in Singapore, 2 of the founders were undergrad students still at university and graduated. You kind of look at them and like, how can you actually say? And I was like, they had the vision, they had the hunger, they wanted to learn. They knew there's a lot they didn't know. And one of the reasons they wanted to work with us rather than others is because they're like, okay, you're going to help support us and kind of like train us. It means sometimes you can make horrendous mistakes. And then the second thing is, I think when you have that belief that this is the right team, you then go and call up experts in the field. You go and talk to other people, and you get them to give you input into what you're doing if it's an area that you don't know. And quite often, you got to be very careful is that you don't ask it, because people will sometimes say, well, I'm an expert in this field. I hadn't thought of it, so it can't be that great, or I could do it better myself. The normal quiet thing is yeah, it can be done, but I could do it much better than what they're doing. So you've got to look at it that way. So I kind of look at it as, do I believe I can find out if they're really solving a real problem? So one of the reasons I like deep tech and enterprise tech, because it's very easy to identify, are they solving a problem? So is their solution a nice to have or a must have? I then bring in experts to say, do these people actually have the ability, or what they're trying to do, is it much different than what's already out there in the market? And I'll change the name of the company and what they do, right? The failure, because it's kind of embarrassing. But I guess being British, we always like talking about our failures more about our successes. But it's probably the deal that I lost a lot of money on, but it was my MBA of early stage investing. There's many things I do differently now because of this. And I think sometimes, my grandfather always used to tell me, if you've met a person who's never had a failure, then you've met the person who's never taken a risk. So I kind of live and breathe by that motto, is that sometimes, it's fine to make mistakes and screw up. Just don't make the same mistake twice. So you've got to learn from those mistakes. So I invested in a company. I call it an environmentally, like a green company. Let's call it the green company. If anybody is listening out there who knows me will know this company well, because it's a well-known story. But I made numerous mistakes on it. And I think a couple of the biggest ones were, I actually knew through a very close friend of mine, one of the global experts in this field. So somebody who didn't know, he knew everything about that. What he didn't know wasn't worth knowing. And I went and talked to him about what this company is doing. And he looked at me within 5 minutes and was like, Michael, you can't change the law of physics. It's just that it just can't be done. The problem that I had, because I was obviously ignored that advice, was I'd already gone native on the deal. I'd fallen in love with the opportunity so much that I wasn't, and I spent so much time on it that I wasn't willing to walk away. I was doing the deal with my brother, and we both actually had the same. We both kind of decided that if this did work, if they could change the law of physics, then God, this was going to be an amazing business. Not thinking, okay, like much better, smarter people than us have proven that you can't. And I think, just on that one thing, and obviously what he said was true, because we found that out very quickly after the investment. But then I'll just kind of how I changed that going forward. So going forward, if I ever did a deal, in the UK, I did a lot of investments, most of my investments with my brother. So one of us would lead and the other one would kind of take a step back from the deal. So we wouldn't both work on the deal doing the due diligence. So the person who wasn't leading the deal would kind of act as de facto investment committee. So they would look at the clean facts. And then my job, so if I was leading the deal, my job was to go to my brother and say, this is the company, this is why I'm excited about it. And he would do the whole older brother thing. Let me play devil's advocate. So obviously I wanted to strangle him at that point in time. But then his job was to be a bit more cynical about the deal and actually make sure that I'd done all the work. And for him, because he hadn't spent any time on it, it was much easier for him to say, no, and we couldn't do the deal unless both of us actually agreed to it. And I think as an angel investor, one of the big mistakes is that we sometimes fall in love with the opportunity and ignore all the red flags.